Hello and welcome back. This is Sherry with Heart and Soulful. I'm back in the studio today working on more of my vintage book journals. So I've been on quite a roll. I keep starting more before I finish them. So if you're just joining me today, hopefully will be a fairly short video. I'm going to finish one up, at least the outside, show you something that I said I would do on camera and then did not. But I think this will be my next start to finish style because it's a little bit different. So if you're just joining me for the very first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy this video. And if you do and feel inspired, please give me a thumbs up. Click on subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Like I said, I have been working on these vintage book journals now for, I don't know how many I'm on, for quite a few journals. I'll just show these just so you see what they kind of look like finished. So this is the kind of thing that I'm doing, and I have multiple going at once. And I will put down in the description a link to the playlist where I started this one from start to finish. I think I have a couple videos from before, and I'm not sure they're even in this playlist. I think I started this playlist when I started this journal from start to finish. So I'm going to kind of continue the playlist because these are still using vintage books, and depending on the book you find, you might do it a little bit different than, you know, each one I kind of address how I'm going to do it based on the type of book I find and what condition it's in. So I'll get to these in a minute because this is going to be the next one that I'm working on, I think, start to finish. So I want to finish up Five Little Peppers because that's what started this whole playlist, like I said. And I'm just to the point where I may do some more inside, but I have, you know, reinforced pages and made some little tucks and pockets here and there and started to, you know, put a few things inside. So I may do more of that, but today I wanted to show you my finished spine cover. I decided I needed to add those flowers, and I'm really happy I did because now it finally looks finished to me. So if you haven't been watching these, my idea as this was progressing was that I wanted to do some vines that kind of continued the vines. Let me get down here a little bit closer. You can see the vine pattern in the cover. So that's kind of what got me to that point. And then it'll just wrap around like so. So I think today what I want to do is go ahead and glue this on. And that way I'm really kind of finished with this part. So let me scooch back out here a little bit. And then I'm just going to grab a craft mat and glue this on. I think I'm going to go ahead and, just because it's not so wet of glue, is use my art glitter glue. It's a little thicker. I need more in my bottle, I think, but it dries really fast and it really will stick down anything. So I just kind of want to eyeball. I'm going to use those letters as my guide because I do kind of want it half and half so that this is in the center too. Normally when I would glue something down, I would start with the spine, but because I'm wanting this to kind of line up, I think I'll do the front first. So I'm just going to sit it like this. And I can always glue down these loose parts after the fact. So I'm going to kind of just put some of this here. And where is my little spreader? Which this was dipped in water, so it's actually a little wet. And see if I can kind of get this. Lined up where I like it. Just that simple. And this way I'm still on the spine. So I can either leave these or glue them down, but I think I'm going to start with getting the rest of this glued down, and that can be drying. So just put a little here. I really like doing these. Sometimes, you know, the spine is in pretty good shape and you don't really need to put a cover on it. But I like doing the slow stitching too. It's just fun. And it lets me do a couple of my different hobbies that I like. I could have actually, if I was smart, I would have torn that off. And that way I could have used it for something else that you would see, but now it's too late. I've got glue all over it. But that would be my recommendation. If you're going to cover the spine up anyway and it's already coming off like this one is, just go ahead and take it off, and then you can use it instead inside the book or something as decoration. And that would have been a smart thing to do. So just glue that down, and then this side, I need to refill my bottle. And this dries clear, so I'm not too worried about it showing through there. And I can add, like I said, any part that's sticking up. But I think that's going to be cute. Now I need to figure out some kind of, maybe a closure of some kind. But this way I can just maybe use the glue on my spreader there and just get the back side of this that way. There, just like that. That'll dry nicely. Okay, my 5 little peppers. I love how that turned out. I'm much happier with it. It really took me a while, if you've been watching this series, to get this spine cover figured out, but I'm pleased, so that's good. Okay, get rid of that. And now I just need to do maybe some kind of a tie closure, and I haven't dug around to see what I have, if I have any ribbon or anything that matches that. And maybe I actually do that on a different video since I have to hunt for it. So let's move on. We'll put this aside, and then maybe I'll finish it in the next one with some kind of closure. Give me time to look around. So in the last video, this was the other thing I said I would do on camera, and then I started playing around. And instead of doing a practice one beforehand, because I really liked this cover for this specific style, I didn't, because I was being impatient thinking I could just do it, and it did not go as smooth. It's fine, I love how it turned out, but it didn't go the way that I really thought it would, and it was really kind of, I had trouble doing it on camera myself just because I was holding it with between my legs and that kind of thing. So I'll show this one to you though. I will probably do a little bit more inside, but my goal was to do something where I could expose the spine, but utilize these flaps that were left on this book cover. So if you watched the last video, you saw that this was an unusual book situation, and I have just the front cover of one that can kind of has a similar situation, but I can't find the back cover of this, so I may have only had the front cover. And that is probably because I did inherit some book parts and damaged books from a friend of mine, and so I don't always have a front and back cover. This book was like this one in that when it was all taken apart, this little bit, which is between, it's that little bit of fabric that's between the spine, would have been attached to this. And you have a little gap you know, in a book. Let's see. It's this little gap, but this little gap was big enough that I was able to utilize it with eyelets. So sometimes they're not, you know, that gap is not enough material. But if you were to take a book apart and cut it back here, you would have a little bit more of that flap. So I have to go through my books, and I'll kind of show you a pile that I have here that I may be able, I need to find another situation like this so that I can show you how I did this. So it was like this, where there were holes, and that's, the book was just bound into this piece. That's why I had those little holes there. So if I had the back cover to this, that may be enough of a little flange, we're going to call that, to use those small eyelets. You know, it's just about the same. It's a little bit narrower. This one was a nice width. So we're going to have to try to, what I call MacGyver, a book so that we could do that sort of thing with it. So I'll kind of walk you through what I had done on this one just as I flipped through it. So I wanted to do an open spine that you could see. So for the next one, I think I will make it, this book block, bigger so that I have more of a gap there. I wanted more of a gap, and that was one thing that I didn't like how this turned out, because I don't see as much of it as I wanted to. But otherwise, I do like how it looks anyway. And I did 8 signatures for this one. So that's one thing that we're going to want to do, is make smaller signatures. And by that I mean with less pages. These each have 4 folios. So if you are new to this, I guess I should back up. I try to remember to do this in every video. Let me grab some papers here. So if you take a piece of paper and you fold it in half, now that makes a folio. And if you take multiple folios, this one has 1, 2, 3, and I can add another one. Those together make a signature, and then you can put multiple of those together. Imagine that this was another one. You put multiple of those together, and now you have, like, this is 2 signatures. So for this project, after doing this demo one, I decided for the next one, I want to do less holes than this, because I want to see more space in my spine. And so this one had 8 for the size of this book. I think I'll do 6, and we'll talk about that more. And as far as the signatures on the inside, I want to do it wider this way also, so that I see more of my spine. And the thing that kind of gave me the idea to do the open spine were these journals, which are a different type of journal. What I mean is, I want to see this way, and I want to see it, you know, I have those flanges I have to deal with. I want to see more this way also. So in order to get that kind of look, it's bound a different way than what I've been doing previously with a pamphlet stitch. This one, what we're going to need, I'm going to tell you what you need today, and then I won't get into constructing it because I still have to collect all my parts. I have to choose a cover. So let's start with that. Let's start with how you would choose the cover for this one. Like I said, you want to have some kind of flange on here. So to me, I grabbed a bunch of books. I also bought a couple of books recently that I'm planning to turn into journals. So I could take one of these apart if I needed to. But I went through what I had, and this one could work, I think. I used eyelets, and even if I use the small eyelet, I have to have enough room to actually put that eyelet in. So that would barely be enough of a flange. So you want to find what eyelet you want to use. If you're going to use eyelets, you could just make a hole and not have an eyelet. I just think it's going to make it more durable if you do. So you want to find one that either already has enough left over, or you find a book, like I really like this one. this one, you know, is maybe enough. It's going to be really fragile, so I would want to reinforce that because this is just tears really easy. But I don't really want to use that one because I like how grungy that is already. I think I would rather use this book and reinforce this from the inside and leave this so I can see it, you know, keep it visible, and maybe even so my either do a floating spine or so my signatures where I see through this, but I would have to, you know, reinforce it on this side. So I want to save that one. That one's not good. This one I could use because I always like to save these, you know, to use for other parts like a belly band or something, if you're going to cover that up anyway with like a slow stitch spine cover. But I look to see this much gap. That's not enough. I would need to cut and create my own flange using this. But the good thing about this one is it's sturdy. So I could cut, you know, wherever I need to and install my eyelet, and then I would have, you know, enough of that there. So I could use this one. Let's see what else I have. This one doesn't have a spine at all. I would have to add a flange that's of a different material, which that you could do that too. I could add a strip that's covered in fabric or something like that. This one is super cute, and it again has, that would be fun to utilize. I think I'll take this off though and use it in another, inside the book would be nice. So I could do that one, but I would have to add some kind of the flange. So I don't know about that. I don't have the perfect book. It doesn't look like. This one is in nice shape. You know, it's pretty sturdy considering the spine is gone, but I would want a book much wider than that anyway. That's pretty narrow. So I could cut this one in half and utilize that bit. That might be the best bet. It feels pretty hard with a bunch of glue in there. I would need to try to clean that up. So maybe I'll try using this one. I can tell there's a lot of, that's kind of thick, but my eyelet setter can work with that, I think. So maybe I'll try this one. Maybe I should just go for it while I'm on this, cut this and at least prepare that first part, and then we can work on the insides in the next video. Maybe I do that. Let's just work on this one and go for it. What do you think? Okay, so I want to cut this in half. Maybe I should try drawing a line. Let's see how wide that is. The ruler going the right way. Okay, so I'm gonna eyeball it. I'm not gonna, let's just do this. Try to make it kind of straight. And then cut that. Just trying to see what I might want to remove and what I might want to keep. Now, it probably would have been smarter to reinforce this before I cut it. This is what happens. I don't think about it ahead of time. I just start. And so it would have been smarter maybe to reinforce the whole thing and then cut it in half, because this is going to need some reinforcement. But I think that'll look nice as a flange. So I want to reinforce it on the inside. So let's see. I'm going to be gluing here. So let's try something. I want to glue this down in my frame here because I'm sitting. Glue these little pieces down. This has a bunch of I feel a thickness of glue in there, but I want it to all be kind of stuck down, I think. So I'm going to add some. I don't know if this is gonna work. This part, I think that'll be okay. Okay, I need something for this side that's gonna be sturdy. Help sturdy this up. I could use some scrim. It's almost gonna need more than that. You see the size that I have here. A little strip of something. I'm almost thinking scrim and then some kind of paper. I have to think about this for a second. Okay, I think I'm gonna put a strip of fabric here. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's gonna get covered up anyway. So let me just make a thin piece. And if I glue it down, it's just gonna make that sturdier. And then I don't mind if that rough edge shows too. It's gonna be a decorative part of my piece. So I think I might actually grunge this up a little bit more. Let's go. I won't cut it off. I want a torn edge. Just use some Distress Oxide and dirty that up a little bit more. And then we'll cut that off. So let's get some glue on this. I just want to strengthen this flange from the inside and keep it with a grungy kind of look. And now it's going to dry clear. And I don't mind seeing that frayed edge sticking out. That's just going to give me a little bit more stability when I go to punch. And I'm going to want that to dry so that my punch will punch through that. Okay, so we're just going to take that off and tear that off. Okay, we're going to hope this works. Okay. And then the same thing to the other piece. And we'll hope that's a big enough. I need to glue that. Okay. And then this side, ooh, this side really feels, it's really a weird thickness, like there's string and glue and who knows what in there. It's like I want it to be thick, but I also want it to work. It's not laying very flat because of that. But it might be enough. It may be sturdy enough on its own. It almost feels like it is. So I might just, it's like the threads from the binding and pages are still stuck in here. I know this looks kind of intimidating because it's a mess, but that's what happens. Every book is a different thing, and this would be probably easier just to not do this with this, but I've started now and I want to see if it will work. So I'm gonna hope this one's good enough, and that's the front cover. Worst case, I cut this all off if it doesn't work, and use it for a different book, you know, different whole thing. Do my usual with a spine cover, you know, if I can't get this to work, but I'm going to try it anyway. Okay, so the next thing I would need to do is mark where I want my holes and then put my eyelets in. So I think I want to do groups of 2 instead of having them evenly spaced. And you'll see why when I get my book together, but it's because I want to see in that spine more. So I need 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, and 2 in the middle, and that's going to be good enough, I think, for to hold everything together. So I'm going to mark. It's easier this way, I think. And I'm going to do this at 7 inches just to kind of give myself something even. And so then I will do, let's see, that's kind of close. I want to do them maybe an inch apart. Is that a good amount? So the center would be 3.5. So I could do one here and one there. And then maybe I give myself 2 inches or almost 2 inches. Let's do it here and here. So I'm kind of eyeballing it, and not yours will be different depending on your book. So then I did 1/4, so there and there. So they're an inch apart. Okay, and then this, just so you kind of know, it's like an inch and 7/8 apart here. So you're going to just do your measurements, whatever you want, but that I think is going to be a good distance for me. And then this one, do the same thing. Maybe I just kind of do this so I make sure they're even across from each other. Okay, I know you can't see those marks, but you just want it to be the same on both sides. Again, it would have been faster if I had left this together as one piece, and then I would have had them lined up. So see, I'm going to help you out by making all my mistakes, and you could do it the right way. So maybe before you cut it apart, reinforce the inside and make your lines so that they're going to be even this way. Okay, so then I'm going to use my crocodile. And if you've never used one of these, it's from Real Memory Keepers. I'll put a link down below, but it's a crocodile. They do make a larger one. This one, if you're doing things that don't need to go a long distance this way, then this one works great. So if you needed to, you know, put a eyelet in the middle, it doesn't go far enough, and you need the big bite is what it's called. So I'm just going to do this one. What happens is you have a punch on one side or the other. There's for 2 different sizes, larger size eyelets and smaller ones. I'm going to use the smaller ones for this. So I'm going to use the smaller side, and then this is how you set it. And now there are other things besides this tool. You can do the hammer kind, but I finally invested in this because I do a lot of these. The nice thing is also you can see through the hole in the top to get it lined up where your hole is marked, and you can also adjust this so that all of them are the same distance in. So let me see if I can adjust that to that looks like about right. Actually, I need to see, because I may not have my mark in the right spot. Because if I want it centered, I might want it a little more forward. So this is pretty fragile. I hope it's going to work. I may need to glue that down better there. And then just do this. And now I have one set. So I need to do that to all of these. And see, the reinforced fabric was a good idea. I do need to glue this little bit right here better though. So I could always do this after. I'll do that after. just to make sure that's all stays. And actually, it wouldn't be the end of the world if this flops up. It just looks a little grungier. Okay, so I'm going to set all of these. Okay, so I've done one side. And I should mention, I'm using these little rusty ones. They started out shiny gold. And if you watched a few videos ago, several videos ago, I just did a hydrogen peroxide, vinegar, and salt, and just rusted those out. So let's see here. The other side I need to do, this was going to be the difficult side, so let's see. Okay, that one was a little trickier, but I did get it and squished down that gluey thick part, but that's good because it just made it that much sturdier. So I need to get rid of erase my little marks that I didn't have exactly where I needed them. But that's fine because it's a grungy journal and those you don't see. Okay, so let's put these back. The perfect grungy book cover. Okay, so those are going to line up pretty good. These are a little off. That's okay. It won't be perfect. And now we need to decide about the insides. So you can see sometimes you get a cover like this and it's not perfectly flat. You can just maybe spritz like maybe this side, the cloth side, with a water bottle and put it under just a tiny bit. I mean, just the slightest mist. And then put it under some heavy books and weight it down overnight, and then it'll be more flat. So what I can do though, in the meantime, I want to maybe measure the size of the pages that I need. That way I can be looking for those. And the one thing that I will point out, and I'll probably kind of gather my signatures off camera and then go over with you what I chose and why, because I think I want to print out some more digitals. You know, as you noticed in here, there's just a variety of digitals and book page and different kinds of paper, you know, in here. So some lined, some blank, that kind of thing. So I need to put those together. So I just really need to know the size. The other thing is the way this is going to be put together. The front page of the first signature and the last page of the last signature are going to be glued down to your cover. So you want to use those, at least the first and last signature, to be thicker paper is probably better. Or you can have it even be fabric if you want. If you want to be gluing down fabric and you don't mind, you know, that other side being fabric in your book, you might not mind that at all. So just keep that in mind, whether you use fabric or thing. The other thing you can do is if you're going to do fabric, because you want fabric on the inside, but you don't want it to necessarily be fabric on this side, you could always glue a piece of paper to that one side of your fabric, and then that way your page at least will turn. It'll just be fabric on one side and paper on the other side. So just think about that when you're going to do the inside of your cover. Maybe I'll do that for mine on this one, just so I can demonstrate what I mean by doing that. And I actually have another idea in my head about how I can do that. So that'll be in the next episode when I put my signatures together. So just maybe collect some paper, maybe a piece of fabric that you want on the inside, and then just don't do any more and and I'll show you my idea in the next video. So what you want to do though is measure, and it looks like this is actually the same size book. It is. So if I were to remember, I think it's like 7 inches this way. So what I usually do is measure this paper that's on the inside, and that's just a good guide for how long you want your papers. So this is actually, I can go 7 1/4 max this way. And then this direction I would go 4 3/4, it looks like. So 4 3/4 by 7 1/4, that's the biggest that I can do, unless I want them sticking out. Otherwise you can do smaller and all that too. So collect your papers, and we will take care of that in the next episode. So have a great rest of your day. Now go make something. Bye.